started research in sustainability some 25 years back, hardly anyone was aware of this concept of sustainability. Uh, Not even in academic institutions. Globally there are few experts, who are talking about sustainability, sustainable development. Definitely not much in India. Business was completely unaware of the topic. I still remember in 1997, I gave a talk on sustainable industrialization in a similar forum. It was a AICT sponsored FDP program organized at IISc. That was year 1997. And it was fun talking to all the faculty members, starting from you introduce this concept of sustainability, give 30 different definitions of that, and link that with industrialization. I think with that kind of a background, I'm giving this talk. You may find it, sometimes, provocative. You may think that, there are some kind of a negative aspects. I'm making that observation at the beginning itself, because sustainability as a concept emerged out of all the negative actions of all of us. It could be individuals, it could be institutions, academic, non-academic, government, non-government institutions, business, corporate sector. Realization of that has resulted in making sustainability as a mainstream proposition. Okay, with that background, I will start my talk. Even though I call it a sustainable business, most of the thought process goes beyond business. What makes a business a successful or a failure from the perspective of sustainability. Sorry. Let me start with the question, what is sustainability? I think there is some background noise. I think I request everyone else to mute their mic, so that others will be able to listen to this talk. Yeah, from again my perspective, broadly it is an accepted perspective now in the literature. Sustainability defines actions and activities, whichever sector that may be, that are environmentally friendly and compliant, socially equitable, dignified and just. It's something like, any action or activity that doesn't create discrimination. You will not have one set of people getting much significant benefits compared to someone else. In a stricter sense, poverty should not have any place in the kind of society what we live. But unfortunately, that is not true. And next, economically developing. See, I'm emphasizing this word developing and not growing. Growth again has several negative aspects associated with that, though economists prefer to use the term growth, national growth, country's growth, GDP growth. But I would prefer to use developing, development, where it makes more inclusive and equitable. The next question is, why is sustainability? As I said earlier, even during the inauguration, Professor Panda mentioned this. Why sustainability is important. As I stated here, it's a recognition of the fact that all our activities have resulted in irreversible damages to our ecosystem. Ecosystem, I mean, it includes nature, as we see, as we understand, as we observe, plus humans. The human nature interaction is very important. It may be purely on commercial terms or otherwise. Our actions have basically negatively affected this ecosystem. It's like equating to a human being, suffering from severe illness. When someone is ill, seriously ill, what is the action we take? If it is not so serious, we start with intensive treatment. Could be medicines, injections, other kinds of treatment. If still it is uncurable, then we may go for major surgery. If even the surgery fails, I think we know the end. It could be death of that human being. Similarly, if we recognize that we have created a severely or seriously sick ecosystem, what options do you have? If it's a simple sickness, okay, do the intensive treatment. That's what we do. Instead of conventional fossil fuel based energy sources, we look for renewable energy alternatives, thinking that it can treat the ecosystem. We look for energy efficient solutions. We look for interventions, that help people at large, society. In the business, we have corporate social responsibility. They spend some time and money on people to do some help to the needy people. Now, these are kind of treatment. But if that does not work, and my argument is that will not work because we have done so much damages. Not only I am saying that recently the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has stated that the current status is very, very serious and the expected outcomes are really, what I can say, unpredictable. We don't know what is likely to happen. Professor Panda also mentioned, the cities might disappear. And other day I was watching a TV show on Kiribati. I think that would be the first island likely to disappear from this world, submerged. It is the kind of damages what we are going to experience may not be in the immediate future, maybe the next 20 years, 30 years or 100 years. Given that if the treatment fails, the kind of alternatives we speak about, then one has to go through the major surgery. You basically act on discontinuing some of the things. The way we do things may be completely stop or may delay or reduce. The third thing is, if we don't do that, as predicted by IPCC, we may see the end. Not in our generation, maybe 2-3 generation in future, or again I don't know. I don't want to give any timeline, but that is what the scientific community is predicting. Now I will also, again, not from a structured academic perspective, I will ask question, what is business? And my understanding, though we do not want to accept this, but that is the truth. Now I would define it as a commercial transaction between a knowledgeable supplier, could be a seller or a producer, and an ignorant buyer or consumer. All of us individuals, we are influenced by several factors. Could be our peers, could be the marketing strategies adopted by the business, or the claim novelty, the newness. We are influenced, and definitely we are much less knowledgeable about any service, any product which we get influenced to buy. Many things we do. I think that's what happens. And that gap between knowledgeable seller and ignorant buyer has a significant implication for sustainability that we will see at a later stage. Now, what is sustainable business? As I gave those, the conditions for sustainability, when business conforms to that, then we may call it a sustainable business. In a sustainable business, should not create discrimination, should create a kind of products and services that are acceptable and affordable to all. This might look ideal, but unfortunately that is the necessity. Anyway, let me continue the thought process. Again, the next question, from whose perspective we are defining sustainable business? Is it from the promoter's point of view, or the shareholders, or privately owned company, means are they the owner's perspective, or people at large, community at large, nation, country? I think depending on whose perspective we are looking at a business, the whole definition, the framework, the transactions of business will change. What I consider a sustainable business may not be the same from a promoter's point of view. Because a promoter would like to earn profit and become big and run a largest possible business in the world. But from a normal person's point of view, a business may be that serves his or her needs and demands at an affordable rate or affordable price at high quality, which has durable life, excellent performance at least cost. I think these are the expectations of a sustainable business. And someone else might think that a sustainable business should be environmentally compliant. It should never use all those resources, those are non-renewable or depletable. They should perform all their activities in a most efficient way, should not pollute our lakes, our environment, our forest. I think that is the expectation of an environmental activist about a sustainable business. So these perspectives are important again when we define and elaborate what do we mean by sustainable business. And for my discussion, I include business from a broader sense, everything that creates these kind of transactions, industries that produce the required goods and services, markets that make these goods and services accessible to people, logistics that transport these things, corporates who manages, makes decisions, strategic as well as tactical. And you have B2B, B2C, the final trade, all those things. All those things, can be considered as a business. And now, I think if you look at these, I think we are looking at some kind of a supply chain, which starts from some source and ends at some sink. I think let us see. But before going into that, some things which kind of disturbs, and these are kind of hints of why we are moving into kind of larger unsustainable outcome, more and more serious damages that are likely to happen. We have seen, all of us in our lifetime, mobility, basically I mean travel, from one place to place. And the seriousness is, it does no more remain as an enabler of accessing employment, education, markets and recreation. People, just for the feel of driving, they want to drive their car, and they want to drive their best car, and they don't want to use the same car for say 2 years. They want to replace their car, more better car. All these things contributes to unsustainability. Again, if mobility is the requirement, then there are many options. One can opt for public transportation, or travel just by foot, or use a bicycle, what we call as non-motorized transport. But our preference is, we want to travel in a luxurious car with the best facilities possible. Again, this is a hint of a sustainability. The next is entertainment. It has no more remained as an engagement during spare or free time. I think people want to get entertained 24/7, either through their mobile phones or many activities. The third one is cell phone, which is a product. It has no more remained as a device for communication and accessing information. Now we know, I think all of us are familiar with the kind of impacts that people face with the use of cell phone, both psychological and otherwise. Why I am highlighting this, the activities should have been sparingly used have become mainstream activities. I think our life depends on this. I don't think any human being at present stage, survive without mobility being major part of his or her life, without entertainment and without cell phone. I think we may be happy to sacrifice those main things, food, water, for the sake of having a cell phone. I think these are the challenges. I don't know. We may call it as change in priorities, the way we live our life, with the way we define our life. I think these are the fundamental reasons or drivers that push the whole business in a certain direction. And not only that the individuals are responsible for this, but the businesses also encourage. I think if I remember correctly, I think close to 80 to 90% of the business that happens online is somehow connected to entertainment, which is again, from a sustainability perspective, is an undesirable development. So now, as I said earlier, if I can map the whole business as a global supply chain, when I simplify this, it looks like this. We have supply. Supply, I mean, it can be an input of material type, resource type, would be. I request again, to mute your mic. Okay. Or you may call this as a source, where something is generated which is given as an input to the next stage. And what is the same? What I call it as consumption. Your source, something is supplied in some form which is of desirable form, and that can be consumed by individuals. Basically, the whole thing happens in this direction, and some transformation happens, because you cannot consume raw material. That raw material has to be extracted from the mines, transported to the facilities, converted into required form. An iron ore sourced from the mines will be converted into steel at one place. That steel may be converted into appropriate sheets, or can become part of engines, become part of doors, then become a car. That car reaches a wholesaler, dealer, reaches the final consumer. It could be linked to a product, or it could be linked to a service. A movie is produced, the input could be actors, you have films, you have cameras, all those things. Put together, the transformation happens. A product is a film which is enjoyed by consumers by watching it. I think this is the way the supply chain works. But there are millions of such transactions happening globally, where one form gets converted into a usable form through some transformation process. The transformation process requires technology, requires energy, requires money, requires people. But let me extend this supply chain. From supply, if I extend backwards, we have nature. All the inputs, it could be material, it could be energy, it could be anything. I don't think humans have developed capability of producing something new in terms of material, in terms of resources. It has to come from nature. So nature provides all that inputs which become part of supply. Then what is the sink? If I extend it on the right side, I would prefer to call it a mine. At the end of the day, why do we consume? Why do you consume entertainment? Because we want to feel happy, want to feel accomplished, we want to feel achieved. Why do we want to travel? Again, we want to accomplish something. So the end is mind. Source is nature. Whatever comes from nature gets transformed into different forms and gets consumed by individuals and satisfies the needs, demands, or whatever it may be of our mind. So if we can control our mind, we can control the whole global supply chain. If I do not desire something, the global supply chain doesn't produce that, a product or a service. So I prefer to call this as, instead of the ultimate global supply chain, I will call it as ultimate natural supply chain. So both nature and humans are creation of nature. So I think this perfectly fits. But what are the challenges of this supply chain? If I put it, nature gives, mind desires. Can we control the two so that, instead of unsustainable businesses, can we think of sustainable businesses? By tweaking our brain, by making, some additional requirements, in terms of moderation, in terms of sacrifice. Let us see that. So why consumption? As I said earlier, the consumption is an outcome of desires of mind that drives the global supply chain of production of goods, services by extracting the finite natural resources. I think this is the elaboration of that. So the key here is, the switch here is desires of mind. If I say that if I can tweak my mind, many things will get produced or will not get produced. I think that basically defines the sustainable business, because the business is nothing about take some inputs and resources, transform through the production system, and transfer that through trade, business, commerce to the consumption point. The consumption is driven by desires of mind. The desires of mind drives the global supply chain. And now it is clear, how business functions. Business will not function if I switch off my mind, or if all of you switch off your mind, then the whole supply chain stops. I think this information is very important. But the challenge here is consumption has cost, because if we want to consume, we have to buy, but has no revenue. Whatever I consume, I don't get any revenue. When I watch a movie, I pay for the movie, but in return I don't get. What I get is a sense of accomplishment, happiness, satisfaction, etc., etc. But that must be promoted, from everyone's requirement. That is what we have put conditions. If I do not get entertained, I may feel dissatisfied, or others might feel, jealous, when I get entertainment. If that's the typical way, when I see movie, others will ask for inputs. How is the movie? And others will get influenced to see that. I think that is the way things work. The next is production has both cost and revenue. That must for growth. Governments want the businesses to perform as much as possible. Where money is spent, money is generated, so that industries function, the production system thrives, country grows. But again, the message is it is not good for sustainability, because when country or industries grow at any cost, they typically create damages to the ecosystem at large. The last one, our saying, natural resource, has no cost, because nature doesn't ask money. We assume or we perceive that water is free, air is free, minerals are free, land is free, because nature doesn't ask for money, but has revenue. That's why, since there is no cost, and when we exploit that, we get only money, revenue. So the conditions must be exploited. Together, I think these actions have created an unsustainable ecosystem, as I have explained earlier. Now I think you're getting the trick. To make the ecosystem sustainable, the best trigger is our mind. Can we trigger that? Can we tweak that? I think that is what I am trying to explain here. See, the whole natural supply chain has source, nature as source, and mind as sink, and you have millions of transformations. Some inputs comes, some conversion happens, intermediary outputs come, that output goes into another kind of system, some more conversions, finally reaches the consumer and consumer's mind. What happens here? Resources go as inputs, technology use that resources for conversion or transformation, and the output is products and services. The sustainability is driven by what kind of resources we use. If we use more coal, greenhouse gas emissions happen. If we use more of solar and wind, one can predict that less impact on the environment. But there may be other negatives which we are still unaware of. Some knowledge is there, we don't know. Some people, experts are telling that if you have full of waste solar PV cells, what are you going to do? The non-functioning windmills, the impact of windmills on other part of the ecosystem, birds, animals, the kind of PVs having impact on other aspects. Again, we don't know. When we try to solve one kind of problem, we may end up creating another kind of problem. Then technology itself, the old technology always replaces with new technology. The world will be more inefficient, new will be more efficient. We had historically, cars like Ambassador and Fiat, and they used to give us, just 4 to 5 kilometers per liter of petrol. Now we have most efficient cars, which give us 20 kilometers a liter. But unfortunately, historically, if you see, there were few number of cars, so the impact was not much. Now we have millions or billions of cars creating all kinds of problems. Not only car, you have other kinds of vehicles, and we are quite comfortable in blaming the thing, blaming the traffic, we are blaming the air pollution, blaming etc., etc. But we do not act. Now, when I said, triggering mind is an important question or important driver. Either we create a sustainable business or unsustainable business. See, people like us, have needs. What are our needs? It could be food, clothes to cover our body, and have a safe place to live, so that you do not get influenced by the negatives. But I don't think our requirements stop at need. We demand things. We need better clothes, we need fashionable clothes, we want to look handsome, so we buy so many things. The need, if our mind stops at need, the business is more sustainable. If you move to the next level of demands, the business starts becoming unsustainable. But even if we stop at that level, it would be better. But unfortunately, it doesn't stop. We have greed. Now we want to have, because for us, even though shelter is for safe living, but we want more than one house. The bigger, the better. Similarly, we want a vehicle to travel, but that is not sufficient. We want the best car in the world. Why should I be happy with Alto? Why not Mercedes Benz or something like that? Our greed takes over, because mind, it is very, very easy to operate. It is not only influenced by us, it is influenced by the whole system. Could be our friends, could be our family, could be our the industry system itself. Almost all the corporate houses spend huge amount on marketing and advertising, basically to stimulate our mind to move in a certain direction, so that businesses thrive and become successful, but unfortunately causing sustainability. What is the quick solution? Again, triggering mind. Can I avoid something? If I want to buy a new mobile phone, when your existing mobile is already there, can I influence my mind to say, no, let me not buy? Or if not buy, can I postpone? Instead of this year, can I buy a new mobile phone or a new car after 1 year, or reduce, I am consuming this much, can I reduce? I think this avoid, delay and reduce can have positive impact on sustainability of the whole thing. Just an elaboration, what is consumption? Basically, again, I will not take much time here. It is basically consumption of goods and services. It could be final consumption of individuals that basically satisfies our mind. As I said, that serves human desires. The desires could be, as I said, basic, that is a must for human survival, livelihood to make the human's life slightly better, then lifestyle to make that life much better. When you become competitive, you have life better than most of your peers. The next is luxury. Luxury is a challenge again. I want $1 million worth house or 10 crores worth house, the best cars in the world. That luxury requirement again creates that unsustainable. Goods are typical appliances, TV, mobile, car, or any hardware. Services are entertainment, mobility, communication, games, dining. Dining, you can have a healthy food at home with minimum cost, with minimum impact on the global supply chain. But someone may feel that no, I want to dine in a 5-star hotel. You can imagine. Then the healthcare. Now all these are part of the services. And when you see that, I think you can realize to what extent our mind has a role to play in expressing our desires, and how as individuals we can control the whole global supply chain. What kind of resources we extract, what amount of resources we extract, how things gets converted into final products and services. Again, I am putting it formally, drivers of consumption. As I said, desires of human mind upwardly moves, from need to demand to greed. Greedy.
Demand quantity.
The greedy mind is a significant challenge. The next, all these desires of mind are influenced by the environment. As I said, the peers, basically friends, our neighbors, our family, and our own observation. When we read newspaper, when we see TV, when we go through internet, we are also get influenced. I think now with all kind of big data analytics and our AI, data science, I think every advertisement is targeted to your mindset. The what you search, the advertisements also match those things and try to influence. Even though you may not really need to buy something, you are forced to buy or you are influenced to buy. Next is increase in surplus income, affordability also influences our mind. The last one is esteem, status, fashion. Because everyone wants to gain status out of what kind of assets we have and the way we do things. But unfortunately, it is not only from influenced by individuals. The institutions also promote, both governments and private sector. There are incentives and subsidies for both production and consumption of goods. I think all of you are familiar. When there is a problem, government comes out with special measures. Tax holidays for new and emerging industries, depreciation benefits. You have benefits related to your duties, customs duties, all those things. Similarly, consumption. Many of the states in India, they provide free electricity to many of the consumers. Basically, we are trying to promote consumption by disregarding the larger sustainability. And marketing and advertisements influence all of us. And forcing us to buy things which are not really necessary. And second thing, the global R&D system, any industries, they artificially create obsolescence of the existing products. New versions are introduced. Like, if you take an example of Apple products, every year they introduce new iPhones, and they have kind of buyback arrangements, so that, you give back all those old ones and buy new ones. See, the intentions of all the businesses to make the supply chain works efficiently as much as possible, so that they can thrive and become big and big. But we basically get fooled by all those things. Even though things are not desirable, we tend to make a decision to buy things. Now I will go into metrics of business. Again, it's very simple. The first thing is rupees earned. It could be in terms of revenue, income, profit. I think every business wants to maximize this. And the other metrics is rupees spent, cost expenditure. I think every business wants to minimize this. The third one is, rupees lost. My argument is all these three metrics will not help in enhancing sustainability of the business. More the profit, you use more resources, produce more goods and services, expand business, so that more impact on the ecosystem at large, environment, society, and economy. My argument is introduce a new metric to measure sustainable business. So that's why I called it as metric of sustainable business. Basically what I means, instead of earned, spent, lost, I think we need to use this new metric called rupees foregone. I think all of us are aware that in our philosophical deliberations, sacrifice is a dominant term. And my argument is that sacrifice has to move from philosophical deliberations to mainstream business. Only then, if we want to achieve sustainability, that can be achieved and delivered. So I think instead of profit, let us assume that businesses also have this new metric called rupees foregone. I think in their annual report, if they start reporting this, the interesting aspect is, a unit of product not produced because someone has tweaked his or her mind to not to buy. The amount of resources not extracted from the nature, less water used, less coal mined, less air polluted. You can imagine, if an individual sacrifices one product a year, and if every individual in the world, 5 billion products not produced, I am basically including only the adults who can participate in that market. Similarly, a unit of service not delivered, one less kilometer traveled per day by everyone in India. You can imagine a unit of goods or service not consumed. I think my argument is that concept of sacrifice, if it becomes part of the business language, I think that can ensure sustainability at large. Not by looking at alternate technologies, looking at alternate consumption methods or alternate production. I don't think it will create anything, because even a smaller quantity of material or a product that to produce, we have to extract nature. And nature, we know, once we extract, it is irreversible. We cannot go back. A ton of iron ore extracted and converted into steel cannot go back as ton of iron ore again. So lost is lost, and nature has changed and it has taken a new form. Just sorry. Again, I will not take much time here. I'm basically elaborating this concept of sustainability. And sustainable development aims at achieving all the development goals that are required to pass through the following filters. As I said earlier, economic feasibility should be the definition, not financial profitability. We again, wrong metrics we use when we define sustainable business. Again, remember that our stakeholder is every one of us, not the promoter of the business. Then social acceptability has to happen with dignity. Ideally speaking, there should not be any individual with lack of ability to buy whatever he or she requires. Now, environmental soundness, it has to be fully compliant and resource efficient. And these are applicable to all transactions related to resource use, production, consumption, and technology. Only then, we can say that our business or any processes conforms to the requirement of sustainability, not otherwise. Again, one more, conflict ideas, again, that needs to get resolved. Again, if you want to have sustainable business, typically what we read is about triple bottom line definition of sustainability. What they call as 3 P's of corporate sustainability: economic development measured in terms of profit, then they say environmental protection, that is planet, and social responsibility, people. See the terms, when I tweak this definition from a human development perspective, because human is an important dimension of all our deliberation. Economic development, affordable, environmentally friendly, not environmental protection. Who are we to protect planet? I think planet was there for several billions of years, and we are a kind of a minuscule element of that planet. Planet will change form, but humans' survival is a question. So become environmentally friendly. Don't take the position of superiority, that I am capable of protecting the planet. Become friendly, what I call as affable. It is not social responsibility, it is social acceptability, from people's point of view. That's why I put acceptable. So unless these 3 P's and 3 A's resolve that difference and distinction, and if they match and map, only then one can ensure a semblance of sustainable business. I think this is another argument I would like to present. Here I have picked up a passage from a typical business book. It has nice terminologies, where if the organization acts on, they can internalize sustainability, not as an end product. It's something like a business cannot take a position, I perform all the activities in an unsustainable way, but I will give a small portion of my profit to activities that might prevent some environmental damages, might help poor people. That is not sustainability. The sustainability has to be internalized into every activity. Like, let me read it. A business firm is an organization that acquires necessary resources. The sustainability has an impact. What type of resources? Renewable or non-renewable? Scarce or abundant? And that defines sustainability. Similarly, organizes those to produce. What technology you use? Old, obsolete, or new, efficient? And goods and services. What type of goods you produce? What type of services you deliver? Expensive, affordable. So that way, you can query the action of the business with respect to all those words colored blue. Use scarce resources efficiently, effectively, has implications for system. The managers, all of us individuals, they have a significant role to make all that actions which are sustainability compliant and internalized. What kind of training the human resource is given. Have they adequately trained with respect to sustainability requirement? What kind of material resources? When leading businesses create and manage their markets and provide superior transaction services. Again, to what extent they create such markets? They sell inefficient products or focus only on the luxurious products or products that meet the large section of the population. Again, has influence. Next, it is also in terms of profit. The business performance, firm's performance is measured in terms of financial profit. The net present value of the company's cash flow discounted at the appropriate rate of interest is again important. Do you want to earn all the profit in 1 year or 10 years or 15 years or 20 years? Many companies, doesn't have that long-term perspective in mind. They want to make quick money and disappear, which is again bad for sustainability. So the concept of time value of money and net present value becomes important. And what magnitude of discount rate you use. Some companies might want their rate of return to be 50%, 100%. Again, that's very, very dangerous for sustainability. A company which expects, the returns to happen at a smaller rate, 10%, 15%, would be more sustainable compared to the other one. And, again, profit maximization does not mean highest profit in any given year, but highest NPV of streams of profit for several years. Only then, business can become sustainable. And we can state that they have internalized many of these things. So as I said, this takes into account time value of money. How they value. Future is important or not. That also is captured with respect to this time value. NPV of cash flows over a period of several years allows a company to take advantage of long-term opportunities. I think any company or any business has short-term objectives, then it's a challenge for sustainability. So we need to take into account the life cycle of a business. How long? The sustainability needs to be internalized into the business. You may be surprised, if I include all the businesses, of any firm in the world into account, and what is the average life of a business? Average, whatever we have seen in the last 100, 200 years. You may be surprised and shocked to see that the average life of a business is less than 20 years. On an average, there are few examples which have survived 100 years, like IBM kind of thing, but on an average, no business has survived beyond 19 years. I think how short, again, I don't know, for some people 19 years itself may be long, but from a sustainability perspective, that high expectations in a shorter time period is detrimental. I think the businesses also need to take into account these things when they want to claim that they are running a sustainable business. Sustainable business is not about giving some peanuts from the profits they earn. That's why, given the importance of consumption for growth, there is a complete disregard for sustainability. This is what we are seeing. Now, unless consumption is addressed, again, I am repeating that one, which is a desire of mind, I don't think we can achieve sustainability at large. See some examples, where you can see consumptions remaining or consumption challenges remaining unaddressed. The first is unbridled increase in urban lifestyle consumption. What action typically is taken both by the corporate and government? Increase production. What is the outcome? All of us are aware, municipal solid waste, wastewater, air pollution. And what is the solution everyone suggests? Is waste management, waste treatment, some waste to energy or something like that. This is the way we want to solve the problem of consumption. I don't think we attempt anything to moderate this consumption. Similarly, increasing demand for mobility travel. What is the action for growth? More vehicles, new roads, wider roads, more bridges, metro connections or public transportation. What is the outcome? Pollution, traffic congestion, fuel use, accidents. What is the solution? Road widening, alternate fuels, transport systems, signaling. But the problem is here. Solution is somewhere else. I think this is the challenge we are typically going through. When electronic goods, new purchases, replacement upgrades. Action for growth is promote production. That is the way business expand. Faster replacement, faster obsolescence, zero interest loan. This is the most funniest thing. If someone, poor person, for their livelihoods, for their farming, if they want loan, nobody gives. The interest rates are very high. But if I want to buy a new TV, I am very much welcomed. I don't have to pay any interest. A new purchase of car, the lowest interest possible they give. So this is the thing. And what is the outcome? E-waste. Solution is waste management, second-hand market. Again, consumption remains unaddressed. The increasing demand for comforts, air conditioning. Again, promote production, new models, zero interest loan. Outcome is more electricity consumption, pollution, greenhouse gases. Solution is make them efficient. See, I think all of us are aware of this one. The problem is somewhere, the solutions are somewhere. Unless, some attempts are made to address this gap, I don't think we can have sustainability as a final outcome. And there is no aspect or concept of sustainable business at all. So, as I said, never address the problem of consumption. All of us are seen, the idea is to promote consumption by providing alternatives. We have energy efficiency as a solution, biofuels, renewable energy, modern technologies as solution, but they are not solution. Enhance production of goods and services so that, growth happens. End of pipe solution, waste management, pollution mitigation, not the whole supply chain. But my argument is, it is possible to address consumption challenge. Because if consumption can be promoted, it should be equally easy to reduce or moderate or avoid. You incentivize, some kind of reduced consumption. How do you promote gaining equal happiness, equal benefits by not using? There are many examples. I don't have to elaborate. People derive happiness just by sleeping. At that time nobody consumes. Just relaxing doesn't require any product or service. Disincentivize consumption. Have regulations, again to address consumption challenge. Alternatives, maybe conventional travel to smart mobility. I think someone can attempt to estimate the carbon emissions or carbon footprints saved because of this particular FDP. Imagine that this faculty development program organized in a physical form. Everyone travels to NIT Rourkela, attends. You have arrangements of accommodation, food, logistics, so much of resource use. And all of that we have saved now. I think people can get the benefit of all the knowledge by being at their respective places and have same effective communication. I think this is the way I think one has to think, doing business in a different way. There may be some compromises on profits, but they contribute significantly to achieving sustainability goals. Promotions, marketing and advertisements, rather than promoting consumption, they can promote reduced consumption. I think COVID pandemic also showed us how things can be more sustainable, more clean by not doing things. This is some kind of final statements. What is the outcome of the kind of businesses what we have in the world? Basically, we have created significant social discrimination. You can see these numbers. Just a small percentage of population enjoying most of the wealth. Like for example, you say 0.75%, just 8% of the world's population enjoying nearly 86% of the wealth. And if you add the middle class, it will become some just 26% or 1/4 of the population acquiring almost 90 plus, I think 86, 87, 97% of the wealth. And remaining 75% or 3/4 of the population having only 2.4%. Do we need a global supply chain or the markets or business to create such kind of thing? Can we not attempt at the reversing of the pyramid? Rather than producing billionaires, can we not aim at bringing the people who are deprived, uplift their requirement? Can the businesses target at this population to make things affordable to them, to make them gain from whatever they get from the businesses? And can we think of business at base of the pyramid, not the businesses that exploit, they basically support? I think that I prefer to call a sustainable business, not the businesses that produce global multinationals, just some few, maybe 10 companies controlling or 10 businesses controlling the whole of world business. I think that is not sustainable. So I think all of you must have read about the fortune at the bottom of the pyramid or base of pyramid. I want to tweak that concept into what I call a sustainable business at the base of the pyramid. Basically with objectives something like this: improving access, creating buying power. Why poverty is there? Because they are poor, they are not earning enough money and they cannot buy things. Shaping aspirations and tailoring local solutions, not pushing global solutions. There are, again, I do not want to elaborate. I think these are some ideas, as business teachers, business researchers, we can think, understanding business only from the point of view of promoters and shareholders is inadequate and should not be done. It has to have stakeholders beyond the core participants of the business. Some, challenges, with respect to, achieving that kind of a thing. Again, what I call as PPP ineffective, at least in the Indian context. In India, both the government as well as private sector, good in terms of creating policies, regulations on paper, but we lack our implementation capability. That's why I call as policy on paper to policy in practice ineffective. It's very significant problem. I think all of us are aware. Unless we resolve that, sustainability will remain a challenge. So implementation is a major challenge. At base of the pyramid business, no takers. The challenge with new age startups, I think all of us read on a daily basis. They want profitable exit, not long-term sustainability. Even you can see a very, very high valuation for startups that are making huge losses. I think this concept of valuation, the way we use metrics in the performance of business needs to change. And CSR need to have active and important stake. It is not just giving as an end of the pipe solution. And reasonable discount rates, internal rate of returns, and long-term thinking. Unless that happens, again, sustainable business will remain as a dream. And role of organizations, I think they need to transform from compliance to cost savings to reasonable moderate profits without impacting the ecosystem balance. I think that needs to be taken care of. Then, moving from shareholder objectives to stakeholder objectives. Unless few of these things are taken care of, I think sustainable business will remain as a topic of discussion, nothing more. So I think globally things are changing. I think the global academicians and experts are talking about what we call as just transition. Transition that ensures justice for all people. And especially in the developed countries, they are also talking about degrowth. Rather than economic growth, they're talking about economic degrowth. You have grown enough, now start degrowing, start sacrificing. I'm not telling that sacrifice as a term is only limited to Indian philosophy. I think everyone else is trying to adopt that and trying to make it part of the mainstream deliberation. So just business, just development, just energy, just resources, just transition. I think these are kind of an important terms already being discussed. Research is going on, books are written. I think I am sure that they become part of our day-to-day deliberations. See, if I remember 25 years back, sustainability was a strange word. I think nobody was talking about that. Now I think it is part of the mainstream. Everyone knows and everyone wants to adhere to some aspect of sustainability. And I feel this just cloud should become expanded and more terms should be added so that we'll have a sustainable ecosystem at large. Yeah, thank you very much for patient listening. I think I took almost 1 hour. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Dear participants, if you have any query, you may ask to the speaker.
So it was a very, very good session, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a question. So in one of the slides you mentioned that according to few startups, profitable exit is more important than. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, I think most of the startups, if you see in India, like even I can name them, Flipkart or something, they get to make any profits, but they have become a big startups where the valuation is very high, and their intention is also not sustain in the market, in the business long term. They want to go public, and most of the promoters they go out of that I think the original promoters are no more there in many of these startups, what we see. When they either someone else acquires them or new investment takes place, you have these standard terminologies of venture capitalists at different stages. They're getting into that. So the idea is to liquidate my stakes in the company, and new the shareholders come in. But when a startup begins its operation, there are some certain ideologies with respect to promoters, because most of these promoters are young technocrats or graduates, with some ideologies. They start that, and it is lost subsequently. So the idea is start something, make it big, attract new investments, and make an exit. And nobody cares, after 10 years, because sustainability wants a long-term survival. A company, that functions for 25 years, 30 years, with moderate expectations, that is beneficial. That is my just idea. You can see any examples, in all cases, that's what has happened.
Okay, thanks, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Good morning, sir. I'm audible, sir.
Yeah, you are.
Sir, whether government is taking care of anything regarding its sustainability for, especially for large-scale industries, whether is there any certain policies of government so that a sustainability department will be there in every organization, like environment department is there, whether is there any policies coming so that every organization should be careful and mindful towards the long-term sustainability of organization? Whether government is also pursuing something?
Yeah. No, but again, the understanding of the government itself is very limited. They are basically dictated by what international experts say. See, as I said, sustainability changes with perspectives. What is sustainable from an average Indian's point of view is not from the same as the American citizen. They are basically have achieved everything. Now basically their job is to reduce, but whereas in the Indian context we want to grow. But fortunately, UN Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, have become part of government policy making. I think now if you see, Niti Aayog also ranks every state on the basis of these SDG achievements. And Sustainable Development Goals, 17 of them, they have goals, objectives, targets for each sector of the economy, including industries. Could be in terms of addressing the human development perspective by industries, their environmental, everything. So that policies have been created, but unfortunately what happens, most of these policies are at macro level. They do not have any specific aspects to an individual industry. And the second challenge, it is something like you commit a mistake in your traffic. You are driving a vehicle and you jump the signal and you pay a fine. That doesn't make you as an individual, a traffic compliant. But you may repeat the mistake, or I may repeat the mistake. Same thing, the CSR, is something like you commit the crime, you pollute the environment, you be unsustainable, but at the end, you pay 2% of your profits as fine. Is that sustainable? And my argument is, it is not that we should wait for government to instruct what to do. It is my belief and the desire to internalize every action I do. An employee, when I recruit, I look at sustainability. In terms of that person, individual's skill levels, qualification. Do I make a match? Do I get influenced by some external forces, or someone has given a recommendation, let me recruit? That is unsustainable. These practices themselves make a person more compliant. Because at the end of the day, as I said at the beginning, sustainability is not something outside the world. It is ensuring how human interacts with nature in a benign way. So human development is also important. When I create a kind of a discriminatory system, I am not serving the humanity at large. So every practice in terms of, as I said, the human resources, the money, the financial resources they spend, the material resources, needs to take into account the three dimensions of sustainability. If you make mistake at any component by waiting for the compliance through regulations, I don't think we achieve anything.
Thank you, sir. There's a last question from the participant side. We can only take a last question because the time is about to over. So anyone can come up. Prerna ma'am, yes.
Yeah, so my question to you, the talk is going on sustainable tourism. So your views, can tourism be even be sustainable? If we follow your corporate perspective and HD perspective, then can we design a model that yes, tourism can also be sustainable?
No, it is possible. I am not telling sustainability need to be viewed in an ideal sense. If not 100%, even if I make a 10% contribution, the kind of materials you use in your tourist location. People say avoiding plastics also has some contribution. But everyone in it is not only in terms of what we use, the way we act also is important. See, sustainability itself can be promoted, so that the knowledge is transformed to the individuals who visit. There could be billboards teaching sustainability. It is not only a person who, when he or she visits that location, becomes sustainable. Even when he or she goes out of that, can continue that at their home or when they go out. See, as I said, the tourist places can become compliant in terms of what kind of materials they use, where they source their food. Like, I will give you an example. A kg of apple sourced from Australia or New Zealand will be more unsustainable compared to that source from Kashmir or something like that. I think most of the vegetable markets you see, they come from everywhere in the world. So the amount of pollution associated with logistics.
Yeah.
So, and tourist place can manage with giving local flavors, local food that helps the local farmers, rather than wherever you go, why should you eat burger and pizza? Promote local, promote the kind of resources what you use. Instead of plastic plate, I say, if you go to like my native place, areca nut is very famous. There are many products one can make using those local resources. Local employment is created, local environment is preserved. I think these are some of the unique ideas one has to integrate.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for your valuable time, sir.
Thank you very much. It was nice. Anyway, I would have liked a physical presence, where we can interact with the audience. But this is a loss. But anyway, it is sustainable in one form, unsustainable in some other. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. All the best for your program.
Will the PPTs be available? A starting portion was left out of mine.
Yeah, I can share that.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Dear participants, our next session will start at 11:45. So we will share the link and be available at 11:45. By the time you can have tea and snacks, and we will meet again at 11:45. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.